Let's head into this newscast with the latest coming in on coronavirus, as South Korea is now the biggest hotspot outside mainland China. The country has now reported 476 new cases, bringing the total number to 4,212 and has recorded 26 deaths. In the capital Seoul, the mayor urged the city's 10 million residents to work from home and to avoid crowded places. The head of a religious sect has apologized to the nation for the spread of coronavirus in South Korea. The Shincheonji Church of Jesus in Seoul has been at the center of the coronavirus outbreak in South Korea. The leader of the Shincheonji Church, Lee Man-hee, got on his knees and bowed at a news conference in Gapyeong yesterday. About 60% of the country's more than 4,000 confirmed cases are members of this church. Prosecutors have been asked to investigate Mr. Lee on possible charges of gross negligence. The church leader, Lee Man-hee, has made his first public appearance since the outbreak and even apologized.
In regard to the 31st infected patient, I apologize to South Korean people as a representative of Shincheonji Church. It was not intentional, but there have been several infected patients. However, we made our best efforts, but we could not completely prevent the spread of the virus. I apologize to our citizens.
Spotlight now. Let's break it down for you. As members of the French Christian group are believed to have infected one another and then apparently traveled around the country undetected. The group has been accused of keeping its members' names a secret, making it harder for the authorities to track the outbreak. Now, according to church spokesman Kim Shin-chang, the church had provided a list of members, students and buildings to authorities. The Shincheonji Church has been labelled as a cult within South Korea and also in the Christian community, which results in the group often being discriminated, persecuted or criticised. For more details and perspective, let's quickly go across to our correspondent Bruce Harrison, who's joining me live from Seoul at this hour. A very warm welcome to you, Bruce. Now, how are authorities dealing with the pressure, considering South Korea now has the highest number of infected cases after mainland China?
Gangsha, the South Korean President Moon Jae-in has just said that he wants the country to wage a war against this disease, and one of his first steps was to authorize all government agencies to operate on a 24/7 footing. He wants to make sure that they're fully accessible, whether that's a department to help with financial means to prop up local economies, or it's government organizations that are going to help get more medical support to hard-hit areas. Right now, we're still seeing most of the cases being confirmed in the country's southeast, the city of Daegu, as well as neighboring North Gyeongsang province. Seoul, as of today, has just shy of 100 cases, and in a city of 25 million, or the greater metro area is about 25 million. That seems like a small number, but as we know from the Shincheonji Church, which you mentioned, it only takes one person, maybe two, to spread this throughout a group of people and perhaps a city quite quickly. So people here are cautious, and beyond the federal government, the city government here, like you mentioned, urging people to work from home. They're also doing their best to sterilize public transportation, buses and trains, and telling people to wash their hands.
Right, situation certainly sounds very tense. Now, there's chatter about South Korea's drive-through testing stations. They've also introduced some apps. How is this innovative way helping in testing and reacting in terms of the response to the crisis?
When it comes to the drive-through stations, the Moon government sees proactivity is the best response, transparency. He wants sunlight on everything. So they've set up these testing centers throughout the country. And if you feel like you want to make sure you're not going to be the next coronavirus patient, you can drive through and they'll conduct the test through the window of your car. Now, what this has done is it has boosted the number of confirmed cases in the country because they are testing at such a high rate, higher than any other country in the world we believe right now. Ultimately, the government here thinks by tracking and testing these cases earlier than later, they will ultimately reach a point where the number of confirmed cases peaks and then begins to fall, somewhat similarly to what we've seen in mainland China. Now, the processes there weren't the same, but now they're seeing cases, especially outside of Hubei province, begin to fall. Seoul has given itself a couple weeks to try and see if it can reach a stage like that.
Right. Bruce, much of the public anger is also directed towards the Xinjiang church sect that's been at the center of this outbreak, and we also spoke about it just a while ago. While their leader issued an apology yesterday, has that apology managed to diffuse the situation?
Not at all. Not at all. And the Seoul city government, the Seoul metropolitan government, as you mentioned, is still seeking to is still asking prosecutors to criminally charge this man, among other charges, willful, the term escapes me exactly, but more or less, in a sense, leading to murder. His willful ignorance or non-action has led to the deaths of people. And his apology on his knees outside the gate of that compound yesterday has done nothing to diffuse the anger. Still 60% of confirmed cases can be linked to the Xinjiang. They were already a very unwelcome religious sect in this country. This has only reaffirmed a lot of people's disdain for this group of people. Once this is over with and the country is able to recover from the coronavirus, I can only imagine that members of this church are going to go further into hiding than they already were.
That's actually very unfortunate, but equally unfortunate is the plight of the economy, Bruce. South Korean export orders are reported to have fallen at the fastest pace in 6 years on virus worries. How's the South Korean economy taking the hit?
Well, not well. The outlook is pretty grim at this time, and we've seen state economists downgrade the forecast for growth this year. There was a slight, positive moment earlier this week when we saw exports rise for the first time in 15 months, and that was on the back of semiconductor sales. South Korea's the leader in semiconductors, but most state economists will also tell you that the impact of the coronavirus hasn't really hit home yet. And over the next few months, we're going to see a lot of industries suffer more than they already are, whether that's technology and semiconductors or automobiles. And then you have the mom and pop shops. You have domestic demand that's been depressed because people aren't leaving their homes to go shopping or to go to restaurants. Small businesses are suffering significantly right now. That's why I mentioned earlier the president wants to put more financial support behind local economies, and we'll see how deep they can dig into their emergency reserve funds to try and do that.
Right. Certainly the impact is going to be deeper than what can be felt at the moment. But for now, thank you so much, Bruce Harrison, for bringing us all those details. Stay safe, stay healthy.